Platinum.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
I'm RowLow.
I'm Tall Josh.
This is Cool House Vibes,
Look at that.
where we talk about everything.
And anything.
And we're live. Episode number 6, is it? 6?
Yeah, 6,
Yeah,
yeah.
episode number 6. We have a very special guest in the building, Mr. Jack McLean.
How are you guys?
Fantastic. Thanks for coming, Jack. Appreciate your time.
It's a pleasure to be here, guys.
And you know, this is a unique, I've never had somebody that's instructed us, like as a teacher on the college level,
Yeah.
come and sit down like on like our couch and just hang out, you know, like this is a pretty cool experience.
Good. It should be this way all the time, though. This
Yeah.
is where we should be teaching.
Yeah, oh yeah. If you think about it, really, yeah.
It's real life, yeah.
You've already given us like 90 tips like, within the last, like, it's like, you know, magnets work greater on the outside of park cans. I didn't even realize that it's metal, but it is metal, you know, on that little part where a magnet could easily go.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
And just so you know, it's not because I'm a genius, it's because I work with geniuses. And I saw what they did, and so I'm just passing on what they did.
There you go.
You know, so I've solved a bazillion problems, and I'm just passing on the solution to you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the industry in the film industry, right?
Correct, yes.
And your main position, right, that's lasted you so many years within the industry, was in the lighting division,
Yeah.
is that correct?
Correct.
And you've worked on so many different films already over the course of the years, right? What are some of the most noteworthy or notable films that you've been able to participate in?
The very first set that I ever stepped foot on was Grease.
Oh, and that was with
John Travolta, yes. And it's bizarre to me because it's kind of like you start at the top like that. It makes it hard to follow up. A lot of the guys that I worked with started in the porn industry because that's how they could get experience.
right.
And in the valley where most of the guys come from, it's a very affluent job, if you would. But I didn't have to start with that. I actually started at the top. It is. It's a little. It's intimidating, but also this is what sold me on the business.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you started at Grease,
Yeah.
and then you transitioned. Because the thing about the industry a lot, and this is just from some of the people that I know in the industry, is there's difficulty transitioning from one job to the other. It's kind of like the post-job blues kind of come into play.
Yeah.
And that's it. That was the work that they did for the year or whatever it is, and they get another opportunity. But you said you started working and then didn't stop for
7 years.
wow.
Well, and realize it was different then because it was a Paramount job. In other words, when the companies came in, we filled the spots for all the lighting technicians on all the movies. They might bring in a gaffer, but we bring in a best boy in 4. So what that meant is that I was put into the pool at Paramount, and when there was an opening, they stuck me into it. And when they needed something different, they put me into that. They were training me at one point to be the head of the department. I mean, I learned every aspect that a lighting technician touched at Paramount Pictures. Like I said, I'm still stunned. I don't know how I got so lucky.
Yeah, that is really cool. Being on Paramount Studios too for one of the fortunate opportunities that I've had with the show White Famous, and produced by Jamie Foxx, and Michael Rappaport was involved in that. I was able to be on set with Jay Farrow, and in that studio, that was probably one of the most surreal moments I've had ever. You know, like this guy, I grew up watching this guy on Saturday Night Live doing all kinds of impressions. We're side by side, you know, like rubbing elbows, literally rubbing elbows as being, you know, like being like a band member of the band Angry Black. That was my character, and being in that position, you start to realize, wait, dreams do come true, you know.
Yes.
And what was one of the dreams that you've had that may have come true for you? That you said you've been able to work with James Cameron.
Yeah.
Right?
Titanic. Yeah.
So, let some of the listeners know some of the experiences, the memorable experiences of your experience on Titanic.
Titanic was one of the most complicated, challenging, expensive jobs I've ever done. And we did things that we'd never done before. Any of them would be in itself an amazing thing. We did lightning underwater. Now, lightning machine we were using was AC driven. It had a tube about 3 to 4 feet long, and it hated water. Well, we were doing lightning because we wanted to make it look like explosions underneath the water.
Right.
So we had to figure out a way to put that underwater without killing it. So we put it inside of an aquarium and sealed it up, and then sunk the aquarium with weight sandbags so it would stay down. And in that, we actually put AC lightning underwater safely. Yeah, it's a trip. And some of the other things we did, I mean, the budget was, I don't think there was one. I mean, I'd love to say I know what it is, but I have no idea. But I was never told no for anything I wanted to buy, anything I wanted to rent. And we had, when we finished, we sent back from Mexico to America, we sent 22 40-foot trailers full of equipment.
Jeez.
Yeah, and realize that we usually do a feature on one 50-footer and then rentals from time to time. So the fact that we used that much equipment was like, yeah, I'm still in awe. I was looking at the records like a week ago because I just moved into a house and I'm still emptying boxes. And I found a book that I had all the rental contracts. I'm still in awe. We had a set that looked like a ship to everybody else.
Right.
It was 750 feet long, and we had power all around it. I mean, it's stunning how much power there was. Most households, your house has maybe 200 amps. We had 12, 19, 25, 31, 37, 40. We had about 40,000 amps.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was just lighting the ship.
Right.
And what it did to us is it gave us the opportunity to go from one end of the ship to the other very quickly, which is what Mr. Cameron had requested. So my immediate boss, who was the one who was always interfacing with Mr. Cameron, was always on the good team. And Mr. Cameron is brilliant. There's no way to get around it. But he's also demanding. If you do your job right, you get an attaboy.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to be there.
So there's a story that you shared, I think, one time where he had somebody escorted off with a gun or like there was.
Yeah. It's well, and we had 3 sets of security effectively.
Right.
We had personal bodyguards. We had set security. We had, well, actually counting the federales, we had 4 because we had the local police and the federales, which was a bunch of young men with A1 carbines, and that was our security. So we were backed up. So when Mr. Cameron was pissed off at somebody, he had the power to have them escorted off the lot.
Wow.
Yes.
This wasn't in the United States then?
No, we were in Rosarito.
Oh, wow.
They built a stage.
On the coast, I believe, right?
It's on the coast, so that we could, and they built the second largest tank in the world for filming.
Yeah, the submersible tank, yeah.
Yeah, so we actually had the ship built over a tank. It was all on stilts, so nothing floated.
Right.
Right.
But the way the tank was built, we could sink the front half of the ship. So when you saw them running on and it was going down, it was literally going down. We had,
That's so cool.
they had flotation and hydraulics to lower it. Okay, neither one of them would do it alone. But this was engineered so that the front 2 stacks literally would go down 2 stories.
Wow.
It was, like I said, you could almost write a story about just that alone, where they went with the engineering on making that happen.
Yeah.
But it was stuff that had never been done before.
Yeah.
It was great.
That was groundbreaking.
Yes.
And me, I'm over here, what it was, 1997?
This is when it came out. So
Yeah,
how long did you guys film for?
We actually went to Rosarito in September of '96, and we finished, I was the last man out April of '97. So what's that, 7 months? Yeah, we were in Rosarito for 7 months doing the principal. Now they still had other people doing like that. CGI was done in LA. There was a special effects unit, miniature for boats in Escondido. I mean, there was like 3 or 4 other groups. but the principals where we had the actors doing all the, the
Stunts and everything, yeah.
all the stuff they were doing, that happened in Rosarito.
I'm over here going through puberty. Jack's over here working on Titanic. That's
Yeah, I
wild.
believe it was 97, right? Is when it came out?
Yeah, that's when it came out.
I
The end of
saw
that
the movie
year.
in Simi Valley with my folks. We went to go visit somebody in the family. And I remember being in Simi Valley, and we all went to the theater and watched this movie. And it was just, I think at the time, it was one of the longest movies to be on screen for a long time. And I remember people saying, well, is there going to be an intermission in the middle of watching Titanic? Because nobody wants to get up out of their seat
Right.
for a restroom break or anything. So I thought that was pretty interesting that people were like, it was just like a play where you get an intermission and then everybody comes back together and then you start the second half of the film.
Yeah, no, that was a testament to the sheer gargantuan nature of the actual undertaking of the project.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Like, you can't spend that much on a film and have that much of a crew and that many lives even being risked creating the film without having it be beyond the traditional, 90 minutes. It's got to go beyond that.
It's a story has to be told.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. And again, Mr. Cameron, he's brilliant, and he's that part of brilliant that is you just have to believe in him. Because what he does has proven his proof in the pudding.
Right.
He's done 2 movies now that have made over $2 billion at the box office.
Avatar
and Titanic.
I mean, if you think about it, like even just the Terminator was mind-bending already, like back in the day.
Yeah.
Like that was already like integrating cyborgs, Skynet. I mean, that's where we're virtually at now.
Yeah.
With like artificial intelligence. And,
Yeah. And is it life imitating art or art imitating life?
Yeah, that's the question.
That's the crazy part of it. And Cameron's, it's weird. He's got a really drastic reputation, but it's because he's so strong in what he does. So much so that when Arnold did like, I want to say the 4th Terminator, whatever it was that Cameron was involved in,
Right.
Arnold went to Cameron to clear it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Out of deference to James Cameron, he went to him and said, "This is what I want to do. What do you think?" And I'm sure that if Cameron had said no, he wouldn't have done it.
Wow, that's very impressive that he has that. I guess we can call it the Cameron effect.
Yeah, the Cameron effect.
That
level of respect that is achieved.
Just everything about that guy is just amazing.
Well, see, I see him as me about like astrology, numerology, psychology.
Yeah.
I see him as a 10 of clubs. But the 10 of clubs, in layman's terms, is the teacher. Right? So he's got a mission to teach, right? And if you really think about it, a lot of people, they joked about Avatar kind of being like a glorified Pocahontas story, but we needed to hear the Pocahontas story. We needed to hear the Avatar story. We need to realize, we can't just arbitrarily destroy, the Amazon rainforest in order to gain money.
Right.
And subsequently, we're now lowering the Earth's potential for oxygen. You know what I mean?
Correct,
and melting the polar ice caps.
Right.
At which point, new diseases that we aren't immune to will be released into the world if the ice caps keep melting, and because a lot of diseases are frozen. And we, as long as our ancestors have even been on Earth, have not encountered those diseases.
Correct.
So we're dealing with a mind-blowing crisis right now, and I think James Cameron is one of the catalysts to be able to teach and help, try to evolve us past our stubborn nature. You may or not agree with that.
No, I agree, because we need things brought to our attention, and whether or not it was Pocahontas or not, this is the adult version.
Right.
And I don't mean X-rated. I mean, this is for adults to understand that story at their level, and that's what he built. I mean, he had people designing the programs to make all that work. That's the brilliance.
Right.
You look at that, and I don't care if you ever got along with him or not, you look at what he does and just go, oh man, this guy's just amazing. And he's on a platform all by himself.
Right.
I
would say there's the George Lucas, there's the James Cameron, maybe Guillermo del Toro, maybe Steven Spielberg,
right.
Like Ridley Scott, like a lot of these different directors that just, they have it,
Right.
They have the ability to oversee everything. Well, everything's a blanket statement. Oversee that which is difficult for us conceive,
Right.
conceptualize, and translate it in a way where we can.
Mhm.
Or it's like they're the filters in a way, or the lens. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always being on movie sets for all those years, I'm still in awe of those guys, for what they do and how much they control and how much they drive, and where their imagination is.
Right.
Because that's really what drives them, is their imagination is greater and allowed more than most people. And I think that, well, I guess a good example is Lucas. He made the second group of 3 Star Wars on his own money that he had earned by selling toys in the first 3.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, which was like, and you kind of look at all that and go, and Lucas is one of the greatest advocates for digital work, for digital photography, and brought a lot of his crony buds up to his Northern California ranch and showed it to them, and espoused the fact that this is what I'm going to use. I'll never use film again. But he's also digitizing, isn't he? Everything he's doing is digitized. So it makes a better match for him. Not always the case, with most people's stuff. Everything has to have its proper platform.
Right.
And film is sometimes just the proper platform. You don't want to minimize that. But Lucas is sold on digital, which is great. We need both sides of it. We need, and I think that's where I am teaching. Bud Tedesco set up that whole program so that you use both. You've got to do film and digital, and you've got to see the contrasts, the comparisons, where they're alike and where they're different.
Right.
And it's beautiful, because today's industry requires that, because you're going to still do film, but digital is really becoming the way of TV, especially.
Right.
So,
and growing up wanting to be an actor so much, and finally getting the opportunity to do it and actually be on set and everything, I was kind of bombarded with, wow, this is really a director's medium, isn't it? It hit me really hard, and I was like, wow. I mean, ultimately the goal is not to direct, and at that point, what's directing without writing? And so not to discredit the writers, because the imagination really, stems from the really good writing, and to be able to synthesize good writing, good directing, and good lighting. I think that's where everything becomes crystallized, and the magic really happens.
if you had the budget they had, you would more appreciate where they are and what they're able to do. We work at the school. We work with no budget, and people learn to make all that work. But you find your limitations go away when you're actually given a budget. And those directors and producers that have the imagination and the courage will take you down the road farther than anybody else has ever gone.
Yeah.
And by the way, after 33 years in the business, I'm still in awe of those sets. When I walk into them and see everybody working and see what they're doing and know the magnitude of it, I feel like a kid. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm looking at like the adults are working now. It's really weird, but it is. It's true that.
Yeah.
Because it is. There's so much to it.
Right. Like you were talking a little bit before we went on air about. Okay, so there's this girl that we watched. She played Jessie on Saved by the Bell, right?
Elizabeth. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was the story with that? What? So you were able to interface with, it was a naked Elizabeth?
Well, and because of the nature, it was a movie called Showgirls.
Right.
Because of the nature of that, we had to get used to the idea that what was a prop on the set was a naked woman.
Oh man.
And because it was quite common that not only the people in the foreground, the actresses, were naked, getting ready to go out on the stage, but there was always somebody crossing in the background.
Right.
That was semi-clad. And it's weird. It's not like you get like desensitized to it.
Right.
But you get used to it, and it becomes just everyday stuff.
Right.
So I was talking with Elizabeth in between setups, and she was standing there in her high heels, and it's weird. I never looked at it as a negative with her. She was doing a movie about naked people and dancing and stripping.
Right.
She was in the character, and I get that. Hollywood doesn't. What happened, because it was Elizabeth and not Demi Moore,
Right.
is that there was actually work that she lost because of it. And thank God, I think Goldie Hawn finally picked her up and put her back into her movies. But it's
because it was like it was on the edge, right? It was like NC-17.
Yeah.
That's the first time I ever saw that rating. What about you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think it hasn't been there. I don't think that they've had an NC-17 since then.
That was that successful, or even right?
Right.
But I don't. A great deal of the problem that we ran into is we had one of the best directors in the world. I mean, he was really good at what he does, and we had one of the best DPs in the world, and they budgeted it based on them.
DP's director of photography, by the way.
Correct. Sorry,
No, that's all good.
I'm running Hollywoodese.
Yeah, it's different than legalese.
But watching all this occur, we get used to being in different places with things that we would never otherwise be. I would never have been able to stand in a room with Elizabeth unclad without it being that movie.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like it was. She got a little too comfortable with it, but it was, you know, her mindset was such that
Right, like I'm free right now.
and it was
That's pretty wild.
if you would, it was part of her outfit. That was her
Yeah,
costume.
right.
You know what I mean? So she was just wearing her costume,
Right.
and I think that's the thing that we had to get used to. You know, because at first it's like you're doing this. You got, hi, how are you? And, you know, because
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm trying to
you're
look at her beautiful.
yeah, and it's weird once you get used to it. And because I'm one of the older codgers on the set, it was easier for me to deal with her as like a grandkid, you know, one of my grandkids, rather than somebody that might be an interest, a love interest. Got nothing to do with that.
Right, right.
It's got to do with understanding there's a young lady who wants to break in a career, and she's got this director that she knows of because he's directed some of the greats, and she's sold on the idea, and so she's into it. And I'm all for it. I get it.
Yeah.
It's just that we have a morality problem.
Right.
You know, it's like they used to call it the Madonna prostitute.
Interesting.
My guys wanted to have a Madonna prostitute, so in real life, you're Madonna. I don't mean Madonna the singer.
Right.
Right.
I mean Mary, virgin,
Right, right.
versus the prostitute in the bedroom. So it's the expectation that that's what you are if you're in public that way. It makes it difficult. So she ran into that bump. She's just
Especially back then, because it wasn't as, I guess, open as we are now.
yeah. We get more open with time, but it's also I want to say a little bit Me Too, but not really. But it was a mindset that changed since then.
Right, right.
And we support more than detract from or undercut, which I think is wonderful. I see the ladies today doing that, and I'm with it, because frankly, you know, growing up in that industry, you see, well, the union I was in at the time I started, I want to say 2,000 people member, and we had like 9 or 10 women.
Oh, wow.
So so that's where it was in '77.
Yeah.
So that's not like 100 years ago. It may seem like it to some, but it's so recent. You kind of go, huh. Well, it's still not 50-50.
Right.
It may never be. I mean, I get it. The job I did was pretty physically demanding.
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay, which I think I outlined for you all the broken pieces
Right.
based on the job.
Right.
But I found that there was no support for the female. If you could imagine, let's say you're really a good golfer, and then some lady shows up and outdoes you. How are you for that? How are you for that?
Yeah,
well,
right.
today it's a lot easier because we're getting used to the idea of the glass ceiling being gone. But it is something that really creates a friction if you're not on your own 2 feet, confident with who you are.
Right, or you weren't raised properly.
Correct.
To respect everyone as
That's
equals.
yeah, and also I guess looking at it, I started at 28, so I'm really older by 10 years than most of the kids that were starting.
Right, okay.
So we have an 18-year-old who's just stepped out into the real world,
Right.
and here he is. There really hasn't been a lot of training on. You know, you've been through high school,
Right, yeah.
okay, And we know high school kind of, it separates, but it doesn't ever really tell you, look, you can't separate.
Right.
Well, what they're used to is what's challenging them. I think that's changing. I know over the course of time that I was in, that we added at least 100 to 200 more women. And some of the greatest lighting technicians I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
Because
they're going to see things from a completely unique angle
it's
than what's traditionally been out there.
Exactly. I was talking with a young lady yesterday. I said one of the greatest differences between the male and the female is a nurturing capability.
Right.
And in that nurturing capability is a softness, a compassion that a lot of times guys don't bring in.
Right.
We'll bring in a baseball bat and a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they'll bring in a dustpan and a that kind of thing. So it's not. I guess dustpan wasn't the one that should
right. A dustpan and a broom and a vacuum.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I
get what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's allowing.
Sometimes it's more needed.
Correct. Well, it's a balance, isn't it?
Right.
We need. I tell students in the class, the rainbow is made up of an infinite amount of colors.
Right.
You need to have all of them for it to be a rainbow. If you understand all of your emotions and gather them, you become a better artist.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's beautiful.
So, and that's really where we have to look at it. So I learned from the ladies, mainly because I was one of their cheerleaders. If they got on my crew, I took all the time they needed to make sure they knew what they were doing and how to do it without getting hurt.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, one of the ladies, her name is Liz, and she's absolutely wonderful. We're in love with each other. She's gay, so it's not like we were ever dated. But she's also a psychologist now, because she got out of the lighting, and she runs a pottery shack, I want to call it. But it's in Venice. But her and I get along so well because she came onto my crew as a young girl, and I just completely welcomed her. That's not common.
Right.
But it's because I understand what I need from her and what she needs to know for me to get that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and that's, I think, what were you going to say?
No, I was...
Yeah, so in the industry, did you guys work on a specific set, you and Liz?
Liz, well, she worked on everything when I was, what they call it, rigging, prepping the stage.
Okay.
She worked on a lot of my rigging crews, because that's where we put the new kids. Because what they did, they taught us from the electricity up. Okay, so we plugged in to a can on this wall of the stage, and then ran power to where we needed it. And it's that kind of stuff. And then putting the lights in where they belong. When they put the sets in, they put what they call a green bed around it, and we can light from that just above the wall of the set. And then if it's even bigger, we did a thing called Heaven Can Wait on one of the bigger stages, and we had lights literally going up every 20 feet up the wall of the stage to light it. So we were building all that and bring the power in for that to happen. That's the rigging crew. So most of the time Liz was on my rigging crew with me. And that's even more casual, because although we have a lot of hard work to do, if I'm the one who's in charge of it, we go in a human pace. I don't want to kill anybody or hurt anybody.
Right.
And I want them to be comfortable doing what they're doing without rushing through it.
Now, I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, you've experienced where there's been some tragedies on set.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
What was that, like multiple times or one significant time that you know about?
Well, there's a couple of incidences. As a matter of fact, it happened on Titanic. We had a young man fall into one of the pits while it was being constructed still. So he got hurt pretty bad. But we had the guy who designed the Southampton dock, which is where you see Leonardo running through the crowd getting onto the ship.
Okay.
That set was designed by a gentleman who was killed on the way home from Rosarito to his apartment. He was hit by a drunk driver.
Wow.
Yeah, and so and that's the guy who designed that set. So it's not just like, and I'm not taking anything away from the guys that pick up the stuff, but this is one of the most important people there.
Right.
And we lost him. He was walking from Rosarito to, we had an apartment complex that a lot of us stayed in, just south of Rosarito. Okay. And so people would walk back and forth because they didn't want to drive, because they're partying. That's what they're doing. Well, somebody else decided to drive and took them out.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a drag.
Don't drink and drive, people.
Truly that.
And what happened with the rest of the? I guess this was the set designed and it was done and over with, or
Yeah.
How does that work as far as when somebody passes away like that? Like who takes over? How do they do that?
Every one of the departments has electricity has best boys. So does grip. They call them best boys. It's a second in charge, and we have a handle as best boys on everything Gaffer's thinking, because we're involved in the process from the beginning. So if there's scouts and there's production meetings, we're involved in it. So the second in charge just steps up. So it's not again not taking anything away from it, except to say that the set was already built. That's the good fortune, and it was a matter of filming it. And once it was filmed, they just tore it down, and now we're a ship to sail. Because that's really the only time we had anything look like a physical building on the set. So
the best boy would come in and take over.
Correct.
Of the set designer.
Correct.
Okay, so everyone has a backup. There's a contingency plan for anything that would go wrong.
You work as a team. You play basketball.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Full court press.
Right. Okay.
Okay, that's how we play. So there's always, if the lead is moving, so does everybody else.
That's cool.
So there's always, as a matter of fact, one of the jobs of the new kids on the set is to be the one that's always in the gaffer's pocket, we used to call it. Well, it's embarrassing when you're always following the gaffer around, and then you find that you're following him into the toilet.
He's like, "Oh, you're gonna hold my pocket into the bathroom too?"
I'll be outside. Yeah, but it is the way I was trained. The people that trained me full court press. So there's always enough people around. So, as an example, if I'm on a movie set, the gaffer and the cameraman and the director are talking about what they're going to do next. I'm listening because I'm this close.
Yeah. Do you think this comes from a budget being provided and only a certain amount to be able to complete the project is available, therefore there's no wasted time because time is money in that situation?
It's always that.
Okay.
It's always that. Matter of fact, part of what we teach at RCC is preparation. Before you bring the camera onto the set, you have to have it prepared enough. That's why it's a scout. It's the understanding of what you need, how much it's going to be, what power you have, the plugs, etc. It's that kind of planning that saves you money in actual production time.
Lots of what we call it, IKS boxes.
AKS, yeah. Lots of them, yeah.
Oh, AKS boxes.
Yeah, all kinds of
shit. Yeah.
Shit.
Well, yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's it, and every department. It's weird. Every department has that same kind of a emotion. They're all going as a group, and so we actually end up with enough backup to where if I need, as a matter of fact, I told you about Showgirls. We finished Showgirls with half of our crew because the other half went to a movie called Heat to start that.
Oh, with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock?
No. This is
Speed.
That's
Speed.
Speed.
Al Pacino.
Pacino, De Niro, and Kilmer, right?
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So we actually split the
I
crew.
got Speed and Heave.
Well, one's airplanes and one, And we spent a lot of time at LAX on the tarmac. It was bitching. And some of the scenes we did were where they're coming in on a landing. The planes are actually coming in low enough where they're only maybe 100 feet above you.
Whoa.
Oh, that's a trip.
And you're talking about the end scene. Spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't seen Heat.
Right.
You're talking
in the
about
90s.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean,
2000s?
some people
Nice.
probably haven't seen it. I've
They may not have heard of it even.
Yeah,
Some of them, yeah.
I think there's like a 10-year spoiler alert
Yeah.
buffer.
I don't know. But anyway, if you haven't seen Heat,
Right.
you're talking about the end scene where they're scouting one another out, trying to find out where the other person has run off to.
Correct.
Because the lights are flashing on and off as the planes are landing. That's the scene you're talking about.
Yep.
That's really cool. When I think about that scene now and I'm watching it in my head as I'm talking to you about it, it's crazy that the light that you guys needed / provided, like half of it was already done for you guys, because it was already in a working
set
up when the aircrafts are landing at night. I mean, it's just because the blink on and off, and so I wonder if the writer had anything that like, oh, I'm gonna write this in there in the script. So like, I wonder if he had scouted that out before he wrote it, or if it was just like something that they saw that was happening, and then they just kind of wrote it in as they were filming the movie.
The imagination process starts with the writer.
Yeah.
But from the writer, it expands, and I think you saw it on your movie sets when you're playing.
Yeah.
First thing is what they write at the beginning is never what we finish. I mean, the bulk of it may be, but there's corrections and additions nearly every day.
Oh wow.
Okay, so and then now let's go back to the original question. The writer wrote a script about a story and about them meeting at a certain place. From that point, I don't know if the writer was the one that did it, or it could have been the director that did it, or the art department, the guy who's a production designer might have done it. But it's all a matter of them all getting together and deciding how it was going to be filmed. So after it's
And the
written...
producer sometimes be like, that's going to be too much, do it over here.
But no, it's serious.
Yeah.
It's seriously that. So, matter of fact, one of the days that didn't work for us is we got a really inexpensive movie set, but we got it at the end of the run on the beach where they're taking off. So, sound is, who cares?
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, the sound man, after the first plane took off over us when we were first setting up, said, you can roll all you want. You're going to do this in post anyway, so, don't worry about an airplane taking off.
Yeah.
You're going to hate the sound.
Yeah.
We were filming in what was a house, literally at the end of the runway. This is where somebody made a bad decision. And I think that's the cooperation point. See, the bad decision wasn't actually on heat. That was on a TV show. So you have people that are still kind of breaking in. They're still newer at it. Usually you get to a feature by having more experience. And you kind of work, in our department especially, you work your way up. That's why it was so odd I started on a feature. It's like, it's unheard of.
Yeah, right.
But the experience is what hooked me. It was like...
Yeah, the first project I'd ever been involved in was a movie. And it was up in... it was a film called Dust Up in... and they're filming in up where I was raised, the Upper Valley Joshua Tree area.
Okay.
And it was funny. I got this email because I do music, and I'd been performing at this place called the Beatnik, and we were doing like freestyles, and I was like performing some songs. And one of the people that enjoyed us watching us perform, her son was the director of this movie. And I just watched another movie called Low on Netflix, like literally the day before. And then I got a message saying, for all the people that are going to be involved in Dust Up, meet here at this time. And I looked over to my buddy Eddie. I was like, hey, I just got a message on Facebook about being in some movie. You want to go? He was like, yeah, let's go. So we get up there, and we drive, and there's vans, and there's all kinds of different movement going on, right? And we get in there, and one of the ladies goes, are you guys the extras, or are you guys the main guys for the movie? We looked at each other, we're like, we're the main guys. we didn't know what to say. We just knew that we wanted to be in it. Like, all right, well, go over here, sign this little document, and then go, and then a shuttle's going to take you on set. And we're the ravers, like the raver for the raver scene. And we got in there, and it just took off from there. It was just like the director had a megaphone. His name's Ward Roberts, cool, amazing guy. He had a megaphone. He was like, all right, guys, so what we're going to do, and he just explained everything, and such little did we know, like, 1 minute we're just sitting down here in Palm Desert, the next minute we're on set of a movie off of just a little, message on social media, and it just works like that. Like, just magic just happens, and it was a crazy experience, and that's how I got, my first SAG eligible is like Taft-Hartley, because the first thing was just
You're
a
in.
movie. Yeah. It was,
You're in.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it was wild.
And it is a lot of, a friend of mine used to say, timing, rhythm, and balance.
Right.
I mean, and it's weird because it almost just becomes like, how did that happen? You just happen to be in the right place at the right time.
Right. Preparation needs opportunity.
We did a movie up in 29 Palms, I want to say in 97, 98. And we had HMIs working, and we were in I want to call it a bowl, because between the actual main drag and where we were filming, there's sort of a hill. And we had people calling because I had an HMI just blasting right up. So it's got those shafts of light coming up, and it's daylight. And so the locals were calling the police saying that somebody we think there's an alien landing.
That's true.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and of course, out there.
Yeah, and
That's the place where they do land.
Yeah, right. In the middle of nowhere.
so that was our moment, you know.
That's cool.
It's hilarious.
That would be like the oh shit moment when, like, if it were to actually happen and they don't land out in the middle of the desert, they land like in the middle of LA, downtown LA, or Times Square, and you're just like, oh shit, this is like some Orson Welles War of the Worlds shit. Like,
Exactly.
this isn't right. What is this? Is this a movie? And then that's when they'll be like, oh, this is just a movie. This is reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's like with James Cameron or something like that, he actually has the budget to create a freaking UFO, an aircraft that actually. Imagine just oh no, this is just for a film. We've created an anti-gravity machine just for the purposes of filming it. Yeah, I can transport people, and yeah, I can probably go into space, but we're just going to use it for a movie.
Now you extrapolate that, and you do it in real life, and don't tell anybody,
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
and let them figure it out. But yeah,
And then just have like some J.J. Abrams where he that's basically how he does his things, where he tends to not say anything to anybody, and he just kind of tries to keep everybody in the dark with his productions. So it's just like you just have a bunch of like production crews out like filming all of this, and then you get like the raw, real life
Reactions of
reactions and emotions of people.
Oh, what is that?
Yeah. Oh man, could you imagine?
Oh, dude, it would be like the first reality movie or reality instead of reality television, reality film.
right.
That'd be crazy.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Scary, but awesome.
Yeah, you heard it first here, folks.
Soon as you go out and do that.
When you-
Remember when we rewind this? Remember when we posted this and
Yeah.
talked about it?
Yeah.
or even better than that, you'll start planning that today.
Yeah, exactly.
Hell yeah.
Let's do it. So it's funny that you say, I noticed that a few times I picked up the word play, right? When you're playing
Yeah.
or whatever. And it's funny that the people that are getting paid the most, like on earth really, are the ones that are playing the hardest, right?
Yeah.
You look at basketball players, football players, actors,
Right.
directors, writers, the production team. Everyone's playing.
Yeah.
And that's really the spirit of it all, right? Would you agree with
For
that?
me, it was, and it makes the day go by when you're just enjoying what you're doing. Now, it may be really hard work, and I've told the story before. I've broken so many places but I wouldn't change a thing because, and I tell people when I hurt my back, I hurt it to the point where, like 10 days after I hurt it, I was having surgery.
Oh shit.
Yeah, which is unheard of for the insurance company to begin with. But you can't feel sorry for me because I heard it when I was working on a Baywatch.
Oh wow.
You heard his back watching Pamela Anderson.
Oh, how did I get there? You go to work every day, you wear shoes
Right.
until you get to the sand. The shoes go away,
Yeah.
and you're at the beach for the rest of the day. It's not horrible.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And it's like, so I'm tired, so I hurt myself. And everybody's going, yeah. So what? Tell me about Pam Anderson. It's that.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't. I wouldn't change any of that. It's just part. It's part of the diatribe now, isn't it? I mean, it's part of my story.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that story, the other day I saw him. I ran into him, and he was wearing his Baywatch jacket,
Oh, it's
like
nice.
legit, like it has his name on it from like the production of the show. And I was like, where the hell did you get this bad boy? He's like, oh, it comes with working. And I
Yeah.
was like, I need that jacket. I want to wear that. Like, I want to wear that jacket. Like, that was one of my favorite shows growing up. Mainly because I was obsessed with Pamela Anderson.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool to see, him wear something like that nostalgic. Now, think about it.
Right.
They actually copied it from. If you go to Catalina and find their lifeguards, that's where they got it from.
Oh, that was the idea. The
So
actual Catalina lifeguards.
Catalina, they're called Baywatch.
Oh, yeah, because
Yeah.
it's in the bay,
Yeah.
That's funny.
And it's weird because I didn't know that at the time. I actually found that out when I went over to Catalina with the student group with
Toyon
my
Bay,
son.
that area, or
What's that?
Catalina Island, like Toyon Bay, or like
Yeah, at the other end where it gets really narrow.
Oh, okay.
Okay, there was a little, I'm going to call it a little village that we worked just outside of. And in going off of one of the boats onto the there was one of the Baywatch guys, and he was wearing that red jacket.
Wow.
On the day, that same day you saw me, I went by a Ralph's. I always get some sort of snack at Ralph's. And I went to the counter where they gave me mac and cheese for the day. And the guy on the other side said, "Are you a lifeguard?" And then I got to tell him the story.
No, I'm a light guard.
Yeah, exactly.
That's too funny.
That's awesome. So you worked on Baywatch. You worked on Heat. You worked on Titanic. The list goes on. What would you say was one of the, like, other than Titanic, was one of the more challenging, or any time where you felt like, has there even been a point where you're like, what am I doing right now? Like, how, like I'm working, 80 hours straight, it feels like, and I just don't. Has there ever been a moment where you're just like, I give in, like maybe your injury or nothing like that? Or?
Well, no. Let me tell you about my open heart surgery.
Whoa.
Okay, and it's, I'm going to go back. I had it happen. I actually had the open heart surgery on a Saturday. Now, if you go to the Saturday before that and then the Thursday, 2 days earlier, I went to the doctor for the first time because I was having, I thought, indigestion. Okay. The day before that, on a Wednesday, I was at work, and I would work until the pain got too great, and then I'd lay down until the pain went away, and then I'd go back to work until the pain got too great, and I'd lay down and go until it went away. The doctor on that Saturday at the open heart surgery told me if I had had a heart attack, I'd have had one. So that day that I was pushing it until it was too tight, I could have very easily pushed myself right into a heart attack, but I had a job to do. So I was like,
Wow.
I never ever thought when I hurt my back, it was the end of the day. And even at that, I went to work on the Monday. So that was on a Friday that I actually hurt it. I went to work on the Monday, and I was limping horribly because I'd pinched a nerve.
Yeah, sciatica.
Sciatica, it felt like somebody stabbed me in my leg and did this.
Oh, shit.
It was
wow.
that kind of pain. But it was from the pinch.
Right.
So I went back to work. Matter of fact, the day that I went in to get my heart checked for the before the open heart surgery, that was on a Tuesday for the following Saturday to be the surgery. I went to the hospital, the doctor that day, thinking I was going back to work. Yeah, so no, here's what happens. When I broke in, if you missed a day, you could be terminated.
Excommunicated, right?
Yep, you're done.
You just replaced, yeah.
Totally replaced. So there wasn't, we didn't have sick days. We didn't have all that. There was no defense. So when you go to work, and people are snuffling or whatever, all you do is you start pounding all your symptom relievers.
Yeah.
So you can keep moving. So that's really how we lived. And it was sort of self-defense. Because seriously, the worst situation was if you're a minute late, you're fired.
Wow.
Not just for today.
For the rest of the production.
Or if you're at Paramount, like forever.
Wow.
They seriously would, there was not a
Because they
lot of...
understand the nature of this is all fantasy, right?
Yeah.
You're so super lucky to be able to be involved with this, right?
Yeah.
And so there's kind of an air of move it or lose it.
Yeah, and it's weird because as I think back on it, what I was feeling at the time is more crystal clear where I was then. Because then I was in the middle of a cloud. But I wasn't even worried about not having a job. I was making a paycheck happen.
Right.
I had a job to do.
Right.
My focus never stopped from that.
Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah, that's a word. My MD, my former MD, was in awe that we were unemployed after every production. He says, "How do you do that? How do you live with that?" I said, "It's just part of the game."
Yeah, you're gonna get some more work.
This is what the deal. These are the parameters. Live with them or live without them.
Right.
The third day on Grease, we were working in the gymnasium scene. We worked 25 and a half hours. It was 25 or 26, doesn't matter, it was around the clock. And there wasn't even a moment that you wanted to stop.
Right.
It was like, and then when they brought the cameras in, sold. I stayed. I was 28. I wasn't old compared to the rest of them.
Right.
And there was a young kid that started with me on the same day I started, Never came back after the third day.
After the third day, he didn't
But
have,
that was
the gumption.
He does.
Gusto.
He says, "I'm not living like that." I went,
Interesting.
"I am."
Yeah. Well, because there's something to be said about bringing that which doesn't exist into existence.
Yeah.
And if you have a true appreciation for that, and you can participate in any capacity, then you're going to go for it.
That day, that third day, that 25 and a half hour shift, that sold me on it. I mean, it not only did not knock me out, but to see from zero, that gymnasium from zero to camera roll was inspiring.
Yeah, I can see that.
It was innervating. It was everything I could do to not be totally nuts
Right.
about what was going on. But, and I've told people before, I think I've got undiagnosed ADD because I thrive on that. I thrive on the change and the movement and the,
Right.
and sometimes a challenge is too great, but you still make it work.
Right,
You
right.
figure out how to get from A to B without even worrying about it. It becomes,
We even did that today.
well, have you ever played Sudoku? You know what that is?
Yes, yeah.
To me, that's all it is. It's
Life
a game.
Sudoku.
It's a game of Sudoku. Can you make this work?
Oh, doesn't go here. Oh, this
No, it
has to go
doesn't.
here. Oh.
Exactly. Okay. On Showgirls, so one day we were I'd taken over the gaffing, and I'd asked the guy who was supposed to get all our equipment, and this is in the morning, we're about to shoot. I said, "Do you have that light for me?" He said, "Oh, I forgot it." So
I forgot. I was just giving this guy shit about I forgot.
Because I truly did forget. It literally slipped my mind.
But it will happen, because we're up to our eyes in alligators. So I went to the DP, the director of photography, and I said, "We don't have that light." I said, "Here's what I'd like to suggest in its place," and we chose another light. We work within the parameters
Right.
of what we have, and we have to make it work.
Yeah, use what you got.
Exactly. One of the best gaffers I ever worked for was Ron McLeish was his name, and he was really a brilliant light man. In all aspects of the word, he was brilliant. And what his line would be, "I'd like to have this light." And the guy says, "We don't have one." He says, "Okay, cool. What do we have? What are my options?" And he was serious. It's like, "Okay, what's your options? I'll take whatever you got, and we'll make it work."
That's awesome. He didn't just like freak out.
Not at all.
Big asshole. He was just like, all right, well, if we don't have that, what do we have?
And-
See, those are
and-
the kind of people I'd love to work with and for.
Exactly. And that's why that was part of his brilliance. Part of his brilliance was he's leading a charge, and he's not going to browbeat you. He's going to make it work.
Right.
And by doing that, by working with somebody like that, you learn that attitude as well. Not only do you learn how to light with whatever you got, but you learn that, the guys, we make mistakes.
And what I realized in the industry is it's almost as if nobody knows what they're doing fully. Like, fully. Like completely. Like, nobody knows the outcome until after the outcome is the outcome. And so, yeah, you may know your job super intensely, or you may know what it is, but every wheel has to go together. And nobody knows what somebody else's job is. They only kind of know what their job is, in a way, And with that being said, if you don't know what somebody else's job is, and you don't know exactly how to do that, then there's a level of not knowing what you're doing that is true.
Yeah.
Correct. Just so you know, there is an answer to that. There's a solution to that problem, which I, by the way, was lucky enough to learn from somebody else. And that is that when I go into every show, I have the call sheet, I have the crew list, and I've got everybody's name before I get to the set.
And number.
And I know which department is what. And by the end of the show, they all know me first name, I know them first name. Every department, because every one of them needs power and light no matter where we go.
Yeah.
That includes craft service.
Craft services needs power and lighting.
So every department I worked with that close, you become friends with them. Now you find out about the kids, how many kids they got, their birthdays, how old they are.
Right.
And then you find out how they had a problem with the production based on either finance or lack of equipment, whichever, and how they solved it. So if you want a film school that's just unbelievable, that's where I went. Because I learned every department. I learned craft service all the way to camera. The cameraman on one of the shows I did in 1983 in Lincoln, Nebraska, which means there is no facility to just call up and go, bring me a so-and-so. Well, the cameraman handed me a screw that long and the size of a pencil lead and said, we need this in 45 minutes or we will not shoot. Ready, set, go.
Dang.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
And that's, you say you don't ever know everything.
Find it.
That's why you don't know everything, because every day there's going to be a slight change in what you're doing. Now, if you have all the parameters like I was lucky enough to do, you know, for instance, if I'm working alongside of you, I know something's coming up for me that's going to affect you. You know about it 2 days in advance. So that we have a plan that intersects, doesn't collide. And that's kind of, you're right in that respect. If you don't act as if you're a crew and not just a department,
Right.
then you get into that kind of trouble.
That issue. And egos clashing and...
Oh, egos. Oh boy, that's really a tough one. Because, you know, it's like a fighter. A fighter has to have an ego.
Right.
He's got to. Or he's going to walk into the ring going, well, I don't know if I'm going to win or not.
Oh, you can win if you want.
Yeah. Well, that's basically, you kind of, exactly that.
Imagine.
It's like a director has to have enough ego to feel like he's going to be able to finish a project and do the job that's going to make the audience come and pay for the ticket.
And the key is when somebody's ego is threatened, I think.
Oh, yes. Yes. It's one of the things that I tell students in the class. I said, if you get onto the set and you want information, go up to one of the old guys and say, I heard you were an expert at this. I was hoping you could help me.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, you just stroke that guy so much, he's liable to give you his wallet.
Could you imagine?
But
He got
it's,
$200. He's like, here,
yeah,
this is for you.
but it's true, because what you've just done.
That's a brilliant life tool, I think.
No, with any place you go, it's exactly right. Because what happens then is we're no longer challenging you as a young person and an old person.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm coming in honoring you. More than that, complimenting you as an expert.
Right. And then now you are able to unleash your empathetic nature.
And now there's no longer the worry about me taking your job, because I'm for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm here to support you.
Right.
Now, when they get that idea, they're no longer worried about it. When I started, people were afraid to teach you anything before you would take their job.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's bizarre. And to me, it's different. I was back to opposite of that. If you came out of my crew new, I gave you everything you wanted to ask me, I gave you while we're moving. I would give you answers that I had. But here's the deal. You're working with me.
Yeah.
You know, and
It's going to make you look better if they know.
and notice I said with me.
Yeah.
I need your cooperation.
Yeah.
I need your coordination. I need you to know what it is that we're doing.
Right.
So if you're backwards on anything, I'll help straighten you out. That was the deal. I completely 180'd what I got.
Right.
So
Not
much.
360, by the way.
Yeah.
All those people out there, oh, they made a complete 360 of their life, and now they're totally different. No!
We do get our cliches, don't we?
Yeah.
But it was a grand education. So much so that I've told students this, if I had to, I could make a movie all by myself. I have touched every department. I understand enough about it to get it done. I know, as a matter of fact, we shot a movie in Palm Springs. There's a hotel just right near the Starbucks downtown, kind of, that's right up against the hills. We were there for 4 weeks. I knew enough about what we were doing to be able to monitor every department and make sure they were on track and they were on time. And if they had questions or if they made mistakes, that we could correct them. Because it was basically it was a non-union shoot, because we were almost budgetless. We had a budget, but it was real low. But it was the intent was to keep all those young people moving with me, because my background, again, touched every department. I knew how they solved problems. I knew where the problems came from. I knew when you had to throw money and when you didn't have to. And that was that's what made it successful.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense. Nowadays, they have to teach that. People are building entire businesses around teaching just some of those little pearls of wisdom. Those mentalities. They're like, this is how to make it so you have a mentality of dedication, or this is how to make it so you have a mentality of, like, for example, the 1 minute late thing, right? Like, to work for 7 years and not be a minute late. You know what I mean? Like, that's almost unrealistic. But if you have the right mentality, you can get it done. It's real. It can happen. You know.
truly that. truly that. One of the first major locations that I drove to, and I was living at the time in Santa Ana, I drove to the other side of Malibu. It's called Paradise Cove. Okay, and I was driving there, and we were fortunately filming in the daytime, but it was one of the longest I went. The one that really messed me up is we were filming behind Magic Mountain at a place in the back that we used a lot, and we were filming there at night. So we were always traveling in daylight. And I got on the freeway going home one day, put gas in my car at the normal place, and got back on the freeway going the wrong direction.
Oh, no way.
And I got like 3 miles up the road and went, oh no.
3 miles?
Before I realized where.
Headlights coming towards me.
That's a long way. Like, if you really think about it, really.
I'm only laughing because you're still here.
Well, but understand what that means is that the mindset is you're a machine. You've set into a machine.
Right.
The guy who DP'd Titanic said it best, Russell Carpenter. He said that after about the second or third week of a movie, people are in the automatic zone. You'll know how good people are by the third week, because at that point, it's no longer I'm fit as a fiddle. I'm tired, and I can still function. Well, that's kind of where we were. So when I went the wrong direction, it was simply me thinking about what I was going to do tomorrow and not thinking about which end of the freeway I was getting onto.
Yeah. So you were already in.
I was already past that. I was already to the point of planning tomorrow.
Yeah, you already think your mind was already in tomorrow.
Correct.
And your physical being was in today.
Supposed to be going home to sleep, and that was it wasn't.
Yeah, that may be a lesson on staying fully present and aware in each moment. Also,
It's that.
At what point in that 3 miles ish did you realize, shit, I'm going the wrong direction? What point did you figure that out?
There was.
gotta be headlights.
Yeah, no, because we're always traveling in the day. That's a problem.
Right.
You know, if I always go home at night and I always come in. No, we were traveling in daylight all the time because we were filming at night.
Right.
So we used all the darkness on the set, and then we came. It was actually one of those. The third tree on the right became. It's one of those points that I always had as a register of where I was and how much longer I had to go. And I hit that point and I went, oh man. And it is. You're kind of like, oh, now I got to turn back around and drive that again and then go home and sleep. And in the meantime, you've lost 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, of your precious sleep time, because they do what they call turnarounds. You ever heard that expression?
Yeah, I've heard the expression.
Well, a turnaround is when you're off the clock now, you have 8 hours to come back. That's called an 8-hour turnaround. So literally, that's all they give you. They give you that much time off. Ready, set, go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
to get home, get to sleep, wake up, get ready, come back.
Correct.
It'd be there before that 1 minute.
At your call time.
Exactly. And I'm always early. In other words, my brain is always about, look, like for instance, coming out here today. I gave myself enough time to where if there's an accident or something stupid, I still get there. Well, that's out of self-defense. The one day I remember is a rainy day that I was traveling from Riverside to Paramount. Rainy day, it's a 60-mile trip. It took me 4 hours. Because every time I tried to do an alternate route, it was messed up. Yeah, I may as well have just taken a boat. It's crazy.
Yeah, with auditions, it's brutal too. It's like, that could be the audition. That could be the role. Like, you could have got the role if you got there on time.
And imagine for you, it's probably even worse because you got going for an audition for a part. Now you have the anxiety.
Yes.
That's now blocking you.
Yes.
Because our brains will shut down on anxiety if we aren't paying attention.
Angry at every driver that's getting
Exactly.
in your way, and then big having the 2-hour drive too. So you're okay. It takes about 2.5 hours, 2:15 sometimes from here to Hollywood, and you're just like, okay, so I'm gonna give myself 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing, and I'll just sit out in front. You have no idea how comfortable the feeling is when you get there 45 minutes early or an hour early, and I could pass out if I want. I could watch a whole podcast. I could watch a YouTube video right in front of the audition, and I will walk up into the audition 5-10 minutes early, and that's it.
Yep.
But when you're not,
Like
behind,
Oh,
Yeah.
man, the
So
whole
worse,
world.
so
Oh,
worse
it's
feeling.
nails on a chalkboard, man.
But your body does not like it at
No.
all. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like shooting all that adrenaline in that you don't want, that you don't need, and you're just like, go away, and you're just,
Yeah.
your heart's racing.
The cortisol.
Oh, God.
Not to mention the fact that then that becomes the focus of your thought process.
Yes, I noticed.
And
that.
everything else that's going on is gone. And that includes your lines.
Yeah, and like trying to communicate with casting who doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
They have no desire to hear that you're late. They just like are you going to get here at all today or not? You know, and if you're not going to get here, like let's move someone else.
Let's shine it on.
Cutthroat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cutthroat.
Well, and that's too where, especially in my department, your name becomes well known for being late.
Late, right?
And there were guys that I worked with that were that way. We expected them to be late. So and we got a call from the union, and so they would send us this guy because nobody else wants to pick him up. So you get saddled with him,
Right.
and one of the guys I think about, his name was Michael D'Angelo. Michael D'Angelo was about 5'6" and very noisy. He's from New York. I want to say the Bronx, but I'm not sure. But we were doing a backlot thing. They were doing minute by minute. Doobie Brothers were playing. They were rehearsing.
Oh, cool.
And Mike went off to do something. And for a minute, the guy who was in charge, okay, I got to gather everybody up. And finally, we realized Mike wasn't available. And so he yelled out, "D'Angelo, where are you?" He says, "I'm over here." And the guy says, "Well, what are you doing?" He says, "Nothing, and I need help." That guy knows where all the donuts are and where all the coffee is. And he has a reputation. But you can tell he's like, it's too fun to play with.
Yeah.
And so I never worried about, that he came in, but it was like, okay, you never give him a job that's like brain surgery.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not your typical surgeon.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, man. So now we've experienced working so much, but what's your favorite part about delineating this information and releasing it to people that will now benefit from it? What's the best part about teaching?
The best part about teaching is that when you're given a gift like I was, you must give back. And so when I'm teaching and giving you guys information, and I didn't invent any of this, I'm passing it on.
Right.
You can look at my resume and figure out who it came from.
Right.
You can look at my on my IMDB, and although it's short, you can see where the information came from.
Right.
I'm passing it on to you guys. The intention is that if you can make your picture that much prettier, you are that much more valid, and because you also understand the process we went through to get to that point, you will be more saleable out in the real world. So it's giving back. It's almost cliche, but I have to tell you, it's giving back. When I see any of you make it, I'm the cheerleader. And I warn the students that the minute you get in front of your first camera on the red carpet, you remember one thing. I'm on the other side of the TV set jumping up and down. Right on. Because that's really what it's about for me. It's like, okay, I got my rainbow. Pot of gold is obvious.
Right.
Where I got to go, who I got to work with. I went through a divorce. It was kind of stupid and ugly, but it was only one-sided, hateful. But while I was on the stand, I had said that I had trained my ex-wife to be a producer. And frankly, when she came to me, she was working on a special effects crew and one of the grunts. And I already had a production company. I put her in front. A lot of reasons, but at the time, women were the meal of the day. But when it came down to actually doing the job, when it came actually down to making the production happen, she was in front and I was in the background. So on the stand, her attorney, who is an entertainment attorney by his own definition, he went to film school and he went to law school, but he's a different kind of attorney. He said to me, "Well, how did you learn to be able to train her? Did you go to film school?" I said, "No." He said, well, then how did you learn this? I said, by working with Francis Ford Coppola and Robert Zemeckis and Clint Eastwood. And I named like 6 or 7. And it's like, for just that moment, it was like,
Ah!
nah, 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 nah.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
it's, I don't live that way, just so you know. When it comes to it, people, I don't,
But there's certain times where that's appropriate.
where that's appropriate, exactly. And that's the only time I pull it out. Because, otherwise it's a little fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I also had a whole group of her friends who were wannabes. I mean, they're all trying to build their way into it. They hated me because they thought I was arrogant because I was always talking about what I was doing. It's like, well, what else should I just go get a book and read the book to you? Or, my life is my life. I'm sorry.
Right, yeah.
You kind of go, what?
Clout tokens is essentially what it is.
Yeah.
You have the clout, you know what I mean? Why not flex it?
Well, and how I define it, I got lucky. I got to pass it on.
Right.
So back to the original question, really, it's I need you guys to know what I learned, because I had to learn it by falling over it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it to you. So that's
I think that might be off now.
that's the joy of teaching.
Is that okay with you? Okay.
I'm just still going. I'm letting it go. I didn't know what, because it was at one point where we were just gonna have to like stop it, and I just didn't want to. So
Yeah. No, it's cool. Wow, man, that was a really good episode. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about that we may have not discussed so far?
No. And let me tell you why. What I learned when I started teaching, I thought what I knew was everyday stuff. And I learned when students were going out and doing their project that they were running into a problem. They called me on it, and then I'd have an answer. But it's not like I could send them out going, look, here's 85 answers. You know what I mean? But I may have 85 answers, but the problem has to come up for me to be able to assign it. You know what I mean? So by going out with them at the onset, that's what I would do. I actually go onto their projects so that when they ran into a problem, I could give them the information. So what's on the front of my head is what you're asking me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that's really how I'm doing this. You're feeding me with where you want to go with it. I have the answers that come from that place.
Right.
But I don't sit here all day long and go, well, I like to talk about this now.
Right, no.
Because it's not, I'm looking for y'all. Yes, I was in Texas for 2 years in the military, y'all. But I'm looking for y'all to kind of tell me what you need. And I do that. That's what I do in the class. It's really basically the same thing. Now I have a basic amount of stuff that I fill up, but the questions then lead to all the other details and data. So,
That's awesome.
the only thing I like to say is break a leg.
Break a leg, yeah. That's a good way to close it.
hell yeah!
Professor Jack McLean.
Thanks
you.
for coming, man. We both really appreciate your time to come out here and drive out here. I know it's about 45 to an hour out of your time, and so we definitely greatly appreciate it.
It's part of giving back.
Yeah, definitely.
Helping you guys promote you.
Thank you. Pool House Vibes, episode number 6.
Now check out Jack on IMDB. He's on Instagram. If anybody wants a question or two to throw his way, I'm sure he'll. I mean, like he said, he's there to pay it forward. So if anybody ever has anything that they want to learn from this man, like how I and Roland have, I'm sure he's more than willing to help you out.
That's part of the deal.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.